Yeah, sorry about that. The connection broke up. But what I was saying was like my mum. I don't know if you where you heard me, but
Yeah,
I said
yeah,
like
yeah,
my mum found this chunk of wood that I found on the beach, and I carried it back, and she put it in the garden. But it's like it's interesting, like when you talk about consumerism and what people like, and decor. Some people like, still like the old fashioned kind of um decor, if that makes sense. I think it's interesting, like people's buying habits, what they like,
yeah,
and why people ultimately choose to buy something, if that makes sense. Do you think that?
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, again, that's kind of like the core of what I do is like that very principle of like why do people buy what they buy and stuff like that. Such a complex you know thing with so many variables. And it's like very complicated. It's like infinite like amount of variables that could influence why somebody buys or whatever that consumerism might be like. It's not just like a simple math problem where you say 1 + 1 = 2. It's like, what I mean, people's entire you know identities and everything else involved in what they buy. And it's really funny because when you think about it, even things as simple as like toothpaste or something like that, it's like something as simple as basic as toothpaste, and somebody will actually have a preference of which brand they like or which toothpaste they like or what what I mean. And it's like,
Mm,
and you'll have like 30 different toothpastes that are competing,
yeah,
and you'll have if you go to like a supermarket, you'll have like 1,000 different like options. What I mean? It's like toothpaste, so it's like, and then that idea extends to every other product, what I mean, that you could think of, what I mean. So it's like really kind of it's just such an interesting thing where we're at, like in this kind of day and age where we have these limitless options, and it just wasn't like that before. If you think about it, like 100 years ago,
yeah. It was like you just pick it up and choose what
picture
whatever it was.
different situation, a whole different ball game. So it's like, um, sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, that you there?
Yeah, yeah. Just
Come
just
back.
pause it. Yeah, I'm back now. Just pause for a sec. Yeah, it's like you said,
Yeah,
like 100 years ago, we didn't have the same options that we do now. I find
right. I
it.
mean, 100 years ago was just go ahead.
I find it interesting though, and I think something that I've identified in myself recently is like face moisturizer. There's all these different types of face moisturizer. And I'm like,
Right,
well, I quite like this one because this looks
right.
pretty good.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, just the way bottles are the way the packaging, shaped, the color schemes, um, again, the texture, the tactile, input of what the container feels like. Is it heavy? Is it light? Do the
Mm,
colors make me feel like it represents? You know what I mean? Like I recently switched to. I brought up toothpaste earlier. I recently switched to non-fluoride toothpaste because I've heard some studies or whatever. I'm just going to try it out. But when you look at the packaging for these non-fluoride containing toothpaste, it's a whole different branding, like the color schemes and the packaging and the tubes they choose and just everything about it. So it's like, it's there's a million decisions that go into these, especially these big brands that are making, these are multi-million-dollar companies, and every box of toothpaste they sell is a penny, but it's like they sell millions and millions of them or whatever. So it's like, um, the slightest change in their marketing, the slightest change in their advertising or branding can have like huge effects on their sales or whatever it is on their bottom line. So it's like, of course, they spend millions researching it and showing samples to like audiences and getting feedback. And I mean, there's always content. Like the way a toothpaste box looks today versus the way it did 20 years ago is completely different. Not completely different, but I mean, very different, right? So it's like, because of the constant evolution of like, okay, researching what people want and what they like, and then updating the product, and then things continue to evolve and continuously changing. You know what I mean? So it's really interesting.
yeah. No, it is fascinating. And when you break it down and you peel back those layers, it just kind of
Right,
blows your mind when you think about it. And
right,
like a lot of people see like toothpaste or they see moisturizer or they just think, oh, it's just a pair, just a bit of toothpaste. But there's so much that goes into it that
Oh yeah.
represents their brand and what they are. And I mean, I don't personally, I've never really smoked, but like you think of cigarettes, years
Right.
ago, and how the advertisement, how the branding, I don't know what, back in the 50s maybe, or like, 40s,
Right. Yeah.
cigarettes, posters, and,
Yeah.
it gets into your psyche.
Right. I think we talked about that last time. Like we think we talked about that last time where like if you
Yeah.
listen to commercials from like the 50s, like it's a whole different approach to the psychology of how they sold it. Like the psychology was completely different in advertising from the 50s. Like it was like a situation where they didn't understand the psychosocial implications of of advertising. So they would
That's okay. Yeah.
yeah. So they would their approach to advertising was completely different, where it was like they weren't utilizing the psychology that they do now. You know what I mean? So if you listen to advertisements from the 50s or 40s or 30s, it's like it was all like oh, this cigarette, long lasting, the best tobacco, tastes great filters or whatever, best filter. They're always listing the kind of benefit, like the actual, like, highlights of the product. Now, if you look at advertising, it's more like, hanging out with your friends, having a good time, and enjoying a cigarette. It's like the psychosocial implications of the product. You know what I mean? It's completely different. So it's like that's a good illustration of the psychology of how they advertise
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, it's it. And that's it. And I think, like, I've noticed on some commercials, like, they'll have like a really dramatic commercial or something that happens in the commercial that's totally unrelated to the product. But because
Yeah.
it kind of sticks in your memory and stands out.
Yeah.
You're good.
Say
You're
it one
good.
more time. I got a bunch of action going on right here.
Yeah. Downtown LA.
Yeah.
And
One more time.
yeah, I'm saying like certain commercials like stand out in your because you'll have commercials where it has stuff in it that's totally unrelated to the actual product, if that makes sense.
Right.
But it
Yeah,
sticks in your
absolutely.
memory and you remember it. So you're like, well,
Right.
I remember because that happened in that commercial and it was bloody like
Right.
chocolate or something like that.
Right. Right. Absolutely. I mean, if you look at modern advertising, it's so heavily psychologically influenced that it's like, again, when you peel back the layers, it's like it just seems like this fun kind of like non-invasive kind of like, oh, this like they're hanging out at the beach, you're
Yeah.
driving, or something like that, or drinking Budweiser or whatever.
Yeah,
When
that's
you really
it.
kind of get down, it's like speaking to the like what your actual like what you want out of life, who you want to be. You know what I mean? It's like who does that person want? Who that whoever's gonna buy our product, what do they want to be? Who do they want to be a rock star? Do they want to be a homemaker? What is it that they identify with? And then that's what they put in their advertising, that's what they hit you with. You know what I mean? So it's like this kind of like this kind of situation where again it's all psychology based.
Yeah, I think what is an interesting one as well. Like, I know in the States they're very big on the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
and I know one of the big key things in the Super Bowl is the commercials. Like the commercials in the Super Bowl are like
Right.
quite iconic, if that makes sense. They
Right.
always stand
Yeah,
out. Do you know?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, they spend millions of dollars on those. You know what I mean? Those things are like not. It's not just an accident. They just kind of come together. It's like people. They probably spend their entire year, or who knows, preparing for those things and coming up with ideas and putting millions of dollars into it. And really, because they know that people are watching it, and because of the kind of like iconic status that it's obtained over the years of like, but it's like the most powerful. I think when you look at even things like cinema, movies, they have such a profound effect on the psyche that it's like people have realized that these kind of like audio, video, things like whether it be a commercial, a movie, whatever it is, it's very powerful in the psyche. You know what I mean? You can really
yeah,
put ideas in people's heads or control their opinions or influence their opinions. with very kind of like simple, basic. I mean, even I think we talked about this last time. Even more so, like even very basic, like just showing subliminal clips. Like I think we talked about this last time. I always found this interesting.
Oh,
Like,
subliminal advertising.
right? If you put like, there was a guy in the 50s. He wasn't even. It was just a normal dude that owned a movie house, and he would put little inserts into his movies, like frame of like, go buy our popcorn, but it's too quick for the eye to recognize it. You know, just like a split-second frame. And so people would like, and his sales shot up. So they actually had to like outlaw that. You know what I mean? They had, so it shows that like humans are very susceptible to subliminal advertising, subliminal messages, attacking the psyche, you know, attacking that the super ego or whatever, you know,
that's
the
it.
subconscious, you know.
It's so interesting, isn't it? It's so interesting. And
yeah,
I think like if I do every podcast and I always show our friends left of Greg mug, they'll probably subliminally see this every time and then end up watching.
In my graduate program, they showed this crazy video, and you can find it on YouTube. It's just like, it was these psychologists that set it up where they're driving, they're posing as taxi drivers, the psychologists. They were driving people around. It was all set up. It was all prearranged. But the subjects are unsuspecting, and they would take them to these kind of like advertising conferences and have them like make them think they were just like getting paid for their ideas or whatever. And they would get them to be able to present the ideas that they put in their mind on the cab ride over there, whatever it was. They'd be like, okay,
oh my,
it was really like, I love the video. I gotta find it again and share it because it's really powerful. Like they would literally they would spit back whatever was put into their mind in the cab ride. You know what I mean? And not have any idea where it came from. Oh, it's my idea. I don't know. It just came up with it. You know what I mean? Why did you choose that? I don't know. It just popped into my head. Well, guess what? You know what I mean? They'll show the actual psychology behind it. So it's fascinating. So that's why psychology is such a fun kind of like, you know, endless. We're so new at we know very little about the human psyche, and it's very powerful. And we're completely driven by it, for lack of a better term, or influenced by our psyches. You know what I mean? And to think that people are spending millions of dollars to influence our psyches or to manipulate our psyches, it's kind of like a fascinating idea. Like, you know, people are advertisers, Coca-Cola or whatever, they're like, okay, we got it, psychology, you know, put psychology in the commercial and sell millions of dollars of our product. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's it. It's so fascinating. And I think you see I won't go too much into it, but like, you know, like government commercials, like recently, like, you know, coronavirus and vaccine stuff, like you see a lot of that. I think that gets into people's psyche, and you have to be so careful what you try and let in.
Absolutely. Even things that you wouldn't, even for me, things that I wouldn't suspect that would utilize those kind of like, I mean, everyone across the board. When I started noticing like how much like the U.S. Army or the military uses these kind of tactics in the commercials, I mean, they do it more than anybody. Like the military, they're really heavy into like these really strong kind of like forceful messages of like why to join the army. And when you break the psychology down, it's like, wow, that's like really powerful stuff that they put in their advertising. They do the same, you know, it's like the concept is like everybody has a brand. Everybody advertises their brand one way or another, right? Whether it's like your own personal brand, or whether you're the president of the United States, or whether you're the country itself, or whether you're a mom. I mean, everybody has a branding that they try to like put forth, you know. And again, that's why they consume the things they consume, because it helps lend credence to that branding that you put effort into putting forth, you know. Like whatever you want to, whatever idea you're trying to present to the world, there's a product you can buy to help you present that face to the world. So you go buy that product and you become that person you want to become. That's consumerism, you know, basically, you know. Who do I want to be? Who do I want to represent? What do I buy what do I buy, or what don't I buy to help me put that mask on, that face on, or whatever, that persona on, you know.
it's so fascinating, and like you think of
Yeah.
like you think of people in the music industry. You're right. The sorry, the connection went again, but I know you've got to shoot and everything. But Jesse, it was great having you back on the podcast again, and I really appreciate your time. And I really enjoy having these conversations with you. I think these topics are really interesting, and I think they're definitely worth looking into, and people should pay attention to these things.
Yeah. Yeah. Adam, it was my pleasure, bro. Let's do it again soon, right?
Yeah, of course, man. You take
All
it
right,
easy.
buddy. All
Take it
right, man.
easy. Cheers,
Later.
Jesse.
All right, buddy.
Cheers.
Later.
Ta.